Hey there, you, me, and DC fans, and welcome if you are new. I am the stepson of Krypton,
Mantis.
and today I've been so excited for this one. We are discussing Action Comics #1, just released the reprint. I say that right here. It is not out yet at the time of recording this. You guys have to wait till tomorrow. We're not going to get into that, though. What we are going to get into is the discussion. Mantis, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, let's go. All right, guys, as we said, exciting. Been waiting for this. We knew with April being the summer of Superman, they were going to re-release the reprint of Action Comics #1. Now, I will say, full disclaimer, I did not have, I've never had a copy of Action Comics #1, right? Just it's not been a thing. You're not going to find any of them that aren't going to cost you an arm and a leg, right? And
Actually,
comics already costing me enough right now, so but they were doing the reprint. So I was able to pick it up. We're not going to discuss how I have it early because this video is not going to release before it's actually out to the general public. We're not going to worry about that. What we are going to worry about, though, is unlike a lot of comics, well, we deal with in there nowadays, there's multiple different comics in here. We're not going to go through them all. We know Zatanna is in here, so Zatanna's father, we know that's in here, and Mantis and I are in the all-in DC universe where the new Zatanna comics are releasing. We won't go into it. We're just going to focus on the Superman aspect, right? Because that is what we are here for. Guys, for those of you who remember the cover, we see the Superman, we see him there. We got to see a little what a lot of people assumed was the kind of remake of it in the Superman and Lois in the original episode where he's got the green car and he catches it. That's not what happens in the original comic here, guys. Just full disclosure. Mantis, are you okay? I'm going to jump right on into it, or do you want to?
Yeah. No, go right for it.
So, now, Action Comics #1, 1938, June. First appearance of Superman. It opens up to, we get and I say a brief glimpse. It's like two little panels of where we see Krypton. Now this says that it is a planet that is literally dying. It's been destroyed by age. And that's kind of all they allude to. Not that their stars exploding or going supernova, which technically doesn't happen. Anything like that. Because if you actually ever watch like the original 1978 Christopher Reeve Superman, that's what happens, right? The star explodes, supposedly you would believe goes supernova, but that's actually a red dwarf star. It's not in the stage of going supernova. That's why it looks big, but as close as Krypton looks to it, it's not anywhere near our size of our sun. Plus, there's still an ice planet being that close because a red dwarf doesn't put out anywhere near the solar output, nowhere near the heat, right? So not to where it's ready to go supernova, but we're going to look past that, all right? So they just say this is an old planet that's destroyed by age. Okay, sure. Now, what the next little half panel we see is because they speed through it real quick.
Yeah, they do.
Superman. That Superman comes to Earth. He's found by, we don't even get mention of who he's found by. It's just he's found by motorists and taken to an orphanage, right? And then we see a little baby and he's holding up, a sofa chair. Not quite the full sofa, but he's holding up the sofa chair and all that. So a little bit different than what we're used to. And then we kind of all in the same page. We get a brief glimpse of his powers, right? As he reaches maturity, he's able to leap up to 1/8 of a mile. They're very specific about that too.
He's a 20-story building. Yeah, it's
20-story building.
Very specific.
He can leap over, and then that's where it comes the faster. Faster than a speeding bullet. Now, to be fair, it doesn't actually say that in this. What it does say, he's faster than a train, basically, a express train.
Express train, yeah. I like how he's also like a steel worker, too.
Oh, on the one where he's holding up the beam, but he still
Yeah.
looks to be in a suit, right? Like,
Yeah.
what are we doing here, right?
What's he doing? Yeah.
But it's shown he's tested his powers, right? And then we get a brief kind of scientific explanation about Clark Kent's strength, right? Now, in there, it says that he's coming from a planet whose inhabitants are physically, they're millions of years advanced to our own, right? As far as that. So, all of their people, when they reach the age of maturity, have these superhuman abilities. Again, different than what we know of the more current, and I say more current, for a
Mhm.
long while in the comics. This happened in the early ages of Superman, right? Of course, we know his powers change over the years, but
Mm.
they show the comparison of the ant, being, now it says lived hundreds of times. There are people who say, no, they can only live 50 times. Don't fucking
Look,
care. It's
we're
there's
saying what the
there,
comic book says.
yeah,
Okay.
and that the grasshopper, that in comparison to their size, can leap several city blocks. Again, when you shrink down to the size of a grasshopper, um, you know, that's what they're talking about. And we see him, and he's racing towards the governor's mansion. He's got this woman in tow. He sets her down, goes to the governor's mansion, and I guess the governor's aide, whoever this dude is, he's given Superman a lot of grief. He's trying to get to the governor. He needs to talk to him. It's life or death. Governor's like, nope, can't go in. He busts his way in, goes to the governor's bedroom. He's like, that door is made of steel. And of course, I mean, who the fuck would have this steel reinforced door on a governor's mansion? But they want to showcase Superman's strength because he just pushes it right open. Okay. Come to find out, he's got a full confession from the person who had actually committed the murders that this woman, this Evelyn, is getting ready to be electrocuted for. Right. So he's trying to get a death pardon. Okay. So
Went to 0 to 100 real fast.
there is no, like, because it's not that many pages in this. So again, when we talked about just the Superman edition,
Yeah.
there is no, like, they pulled no punches. Like, again, we got a panel and a half of explaining what happened with Krypton, right? It's
Yeah.
just, it jumped right
Yeah.
into it. Governor's aide pulls out a gun, tries to shoot Superman. Of course, the bullet bounces off, and then he gets he's able to subdue the dude, but we get to pardon. He saves the woman, and we see Clark. He's reading about his own exploits in the paper, and he's like, "Whoa, thank God they didn't mention me." Right. Um, so then we flash over to the next page, and it's not the Daily Planet, it's the Daily Star, right? That's what it's called in the original.
Mhm.
Which, now I will say, is kind of funny that if you ever watch, like, especially like the Lois and Clark, the New Adventures of Superman from the 90s, 93 to 97, they always go up against the Star, right? That's
Yeah.
always the competing paper, is the Metropolis Star. It's something like that. And it's funny that this is called the Daily Star, and then they
Mhm.
split off. And I don't know if that's let me know down in the
That's
comments if
some
it is,
purpose.
but
It's gotta
it's
be.
gotta be some kind of tie into that, right?
Yeah.
So I just thought that was kind of cool. And again, we see the chief. We don't get a lot of names, right? Because all it says is the chief, right?
Yeah.
So we assume, knowing what we know about uh everything now, that it's Perry White, but it just says the chief, right? And he's given Clark the assignment. He wants him to find out about Superman. He's like, if I can't find out about Superman, nobody can. Nice,
Yeah.
cheating, but it's nice. And then we get this call, like, as Clark's walking by. Hey, he's like, we got on the tip line the call of a wife beating, and it literally says of a wife beating,
Wife
and I'm
beating.
like,
Yeah.
it's the 30s, man.
A
Like,
wife
he did
beating.
not have the
Uh,
martini ready when he came home, and he's beating the wife.
Tuna casserole. You know.
Have a rough day at the factory, come home, tuna casserole, and just start swinging.
Exactly. So, he knows, obviously, he's got to get there, but he's going to show up as Superman. And we get there, and there's a point where it looks like he's beating his wife with the belt, right? I mean, he's going full on dad mode with the belt. We see
Yeah.
Superman in there. Now, interesting thing, because again, we know he has great strength, but it's nowhere near the power levels that we're used to seeing, like in Man of Steel, where he's lifting up a rocket ship and things like that, right? He
Mm.
actually punches this dude, like, he's just, whatever, sends him flying, and you see him hit the wall pretty hard. And it's okay. And he that's it. Kind of game over for the dude. But it was interesting to see him because we've never seen Superman punch a normal human, right? Just for fear of even what he did to him. We go back to Lois and Clark. There shows a scene where Superman flicks the dude. And he's a robotic guy, and he flicks him, and he just goes flying over into the ropes when they do a boxing match, right? Sorry, I had to bring that up. I just always remember that's funny. So then we switch back. We go to the Daily Planet real quick, and Clark's sitting there, and he's kind of explaining to the chief what happened, and then he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna go ask Lois out." So he goes and he asks Lois Lane out. The first time we get introduced to Lois. Again, we don't. It's Mantis loves it because we don't get any character background. We just get dropped into these characters.
Right in
There's
there.
no origin for any of this stuff. So Mantis is in heaven. I don't need
I mean,
origin story.
like now
know.
I am because I know these characters already. But if I was like a kid that got this in the 30s, late 30s, I'd be like, who the fuck is this bitch?
Wait a minute. Who the fuck is that bitch?
Like, what's going on here? Like, I would be kind of probably upset. Like, even now, knowing what I know about Krypton, and this is one of the main things I love about Man of Steel is the way they did Krypton in Man of Steel was fucking awesome. I love that whole intro of Krypton and all the crazy shit going on there. Having like one like actual box and then a side one with literally, I mean, it was mainly words in the second box there. I'm just like, I would be kind of upset if that's all I got. If knowing what I know now about Krypton, I'd be like, that is a travesty.
Well, it's funny because every other iteration of Superman has always played it that the star explodes in some fashion as what destroys the planet. Where, again, Krypton's sun is not at supernova. It's not because it would go from a red dwarf to a white dwarf before it goes supernova, right? And I know I'm going to have somebody in the comments try to look it up and say, "Oh, no, that's not correct." That's what happens. I'm not an astrophysicist. But that's what happens.
Well, in Man of Steel, their planet does explode because it's dying, right?
Yes, but it explodes and it blows up because they were harvesting the core, right? So they're harvesting all the geothermal energy. That's what they were using. So that's why the core and the planet implodes, right? That makes sense. That works,
Sure.
And that's a more, I think, accurate. Because the other thing is too, you're sending out a ship, dude. If the star explodes, everything in that area is gone. The ship would be gone. I mean, nothing would survive that, right? So Man of Steel, again, based a lot more in reality as far as more grounded, whereas, the star exploding and all of that. But it worked for its time. But we see, so Clark, he gets up the Carter Street. He goes and asks Lois out. We see them out, and they're dancing. And then we see this Butch guy and a couple other douches. And he's like the Biff. When I read it, I was like, he is Biff from the original Back to the Future, right? Yeah. It goes in there, and he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna go dance with this broad," and you can tell it's all worded. You would not get away with wording shit like this in nowadays comic. It'd be canceled. He goes in and he basically butts in on their dance, and he pushes Clark, and Lois is like wanting him to stand up, like, Clark, you stand up, be a man, because I mean Clark's still a big guy. He's Superman. It's just, he's still a presence, right? It's not like he shrinks down to a 4-foot tall dude. And he doesn't, because Clark doesn't want to give away any suspicion of who he could be. So dancing with him, Lois, of course, has to lay the smack down, smacks the dude, and she leaves. Well, Clark's wants to chase after her because he's like, "Hey, I'm sorry, whatever." Basically, he looks like a ginormous pussy. Well, the Butch guy, and it's funny his name's Butch instead of Biff. It's just those names. He's like, "Oh, no skirt is gonna, make me look bad again." You would not get away with calling women that nowadays. But he goes after him, and he tries to runs her taxi off the road, and they grab her, and they've got her in the car. Right, again, real dark. Like, for a kid's got like we.
It is kind of
in this comic.
Yeah.
Superman's standing in the road. Now, they don't hit him. He lets the car pass, but then he's running after the car. He grabs the car and he picks the car up, and he turns it up to where basically he's dumping people out of the car. And that's where we see he grabs Lois. He's got the car with one hand. Well, then part of it, how he gets smashed is how he sets it down. Right now, again, That's this, right?
Right, the front
Now
cover, yeah.
on the cover here, it looks like he's rescuing these people, like their car went off the
It does
road
kind of,
and
yeah.
all of that, right? That's the kind of the image you get, and I know you can't see through it because of how it's refracted. You see my screen on the background showing up, but that's how it looks. I'll have the full thing up there, but it gives the appearance that he saved all these people. No, they were the assholes, and he basically then is when he's setting their car down, he kind of screws it up because when you look at the cover art, he's hitting that rock wall. That's how he set it down, right? That's not how the car was when he
Yeah.
picked it up. Because they kidnapped Lois. So
They got insurance.
that's where, like, when you look at the original Superman and Lois, the first episode, he saves the kid. The car comes flying over, ready to hit him off the overpass, and he catches it, and it looks so iconic because he's saving him. That's not how the original comic was. So
No, he was a little bit of a revengey. A little bit of
little bit like, hey, you made me look like a bitch as Clark Kent. So then he takes Butch and he like basically hooks him up on a telephone pole. So he's just hanging up there, right? So then we go back to the Daily Planet, for those of you who want to stay in more modern times. Lois is telling the chief, like, she saw Superman, and he dismisses it, right? Like, oh, woman, you're crazy. You probably saw pink elephants. Like, basically, like, again, we think Lois has always been the star reporter, right? The chief always believes Lois, and now he's dismissing her, right? And a lot of that's due to the time period. She was a woman. They probably weren't taking her seriously. We're not going to get into the politics of that, guys. Don't worry. But then we see Chief giving Clark another assignment. And this is about a war starting in South America. Clark is getting ready to board the train and decides he's going to go to Washington, D.C. And we see him in what looks to be like a Senate hearing, at the Capitol, kind of in one of those kind of what we see where like he's out in the crowd. And so we see him, and he's asking the question. He's like, is that Senator Barrows? Again, we have no information on who this person is at this point. If this is 1938 and you're just reading the comic, who the fuck's Senator Barrows? Right? Then we kind of flash to Superman is in his outfit, but he is hanging. It's odd that because he's hanging on the ledge outside the window of Senator Barrows's residence out there in Washington. Now, this seems odd, but you got to remember when the original comic was out, Superman can't fly, so he can't hover, he can't do all this stuff. He can only run, leap.
That makes sense. Okay, yeah.
So he's hanging outside the window, eavesdropping, and he's talking about this corruption scandal. He's like, "Oh, once by the time this bill gets passed, it'll be too late to do anything." So Superman then confronts good old Senator Barrows. And he takes him up onto the power lines. I don't know what it is with this issue and power lines. Like that's his thing, man. And the guy's worried about getting electrocuted. And he's like, hey, birds walk on the power lines all the time. So they don't. It's if you touch the pole. And he acts like he's about to one time. He's kind of trying to psych him out. And they look and they see the Capitol building. He's like, hey, do you think we can make it? And so he leaps over. And the last panel is, oh, we just missed it.
Why? We missed it. When? Just now.
And it ends. Boom. That is issue 1 of Action Comics #1, the first appearance of the first OG superhero, Superman. Whew, that was a lot.
It's actually kind of interesting, the striking difference between that and like the comics we see today, right? It's I feel like there's a lot, maybe a little bit more backstory into some of the stuff that you read now. Is Senator Barrows was that an actual senator in Kansas? Like, actually, he didn't even say Kansas. They didn't even mention Kansas. Like, who the fuck knows where he lands? Again, these are all, like you said, this is the OG intro, right? Like, a lot of these details and storytelling of the beginning of Superman has changed, and they added things and removed other things. And I would say for the better most of the time. I like the idea of just a family, especially a young couple that couldn't have kids, find him. Like, I like the idea of that. And then, them being a wholesome family to raise him instead of him being discarded. Some fucking like meth head picks him up and takes him to the orphanage or whatever. Like, I totally like that. Yeah. I like the idea of that. And maybe that's because like here, it's not, there's not too much about the truth, justice, in the American way. Like, you can tell he wants to do good and maybe fight crime and corruption, right? You get a little bit of that. Although I will say the stuff with Lois, like, that's just straight up jealousy to an extent. But I mean, there's nothing that
They
the
did
whole
kidnap her
yeah, I mean they did. It's just
and
but
run her
it's
car
like
off the road or taxi.
yeah, I guess there's just to me it's like there's not that he's standing there with the American flag behind him,
Sorry I've been away so long. I won't let you down again.
virtuous person. He had a good upbringing, he had good morals, he stood for right, and it was very evident. And that's, I think, partially been adapted to the Superman that we know today, right? Like, this Superman seems more of a grounded superhero because that ability to fly changes everything, right? You don't really think about it until when you were talking about him having to like fucking cliffhanger on the edge of this building because he couldn't just fly up there and hover and just listen in, right? Or even like, why can't he just hear? Why does he have to hang anywhere? Why can't he just hear them from the ground?
Yeah, because he doesn't have now. Like they're like he can pick up a sound anywhere around the world, right? No, he has to be
Yeah.
relatively close. He has enhanced hearing, but it's not like what he has today.
In this, it's he has superhuman speed. He has the ability. He's very very strong. He can jump, which is again all. I mean, in the muscle side is why he's strong. He can jump high, right? But the laser eyes, the cold breath, super hearing, being able to fly is not a thing, right? It's stuff that they've added in over the years. It's very interesting.
So now one thing I think is interesting. So guys, we're recording this on the 17th of April. It's probably going to release several days. Now we have a video already set to release on the 18th. That is going to be the second part of our Absolute series where we go over the Green Lantern, Flash, and the Martian Manhunter in the Absolute, right? Now what I think is funny about that is, again, this will release tomorrow on the 18th. But this will release. What I think is funny is that when you watch that video, we talk about how not a lot happened in the story, like very little happened. A lot of it was flashbacks and giving us origin, where this is the exact opposite. I feel like we had a shit ton happen in
Oh
these
yeah.
few pages that you get, right? There
Oh
was a
yeah.
lot going on, but we got no backstory, no anything. And this is the original appearance of him, right? This is 1938.
Man.
So I think that's an interesting contrast to how like these stories develop, right? Is that you just spend an entire comic book introducing us to a character who, like, I'm familiar with. Now, granted, the Absolute is a completely new version and take on the character, so I think that's amazing.
Mhm.
But there was so much like bouncing back and forth to kind of give you some more character depth and backstory. Where this jumped into so many, like he had to save a woman from almost being executed, and then he's saving this person, then he's saving Lois, and then he's getting a corruption scale. There was a lot that happened in a few pages,
It's
and
almost
no
like a
backstory on
trailer,
anything.
right? Like a film trailer, like you would see on TV. Like, that's kind of how it reads, right? Like, you don't get any backstory really. It's like, what are some of the action shit? What's some of the plot stuff? Just minor plot points. Like, that's, I mean, it's basically a trailer. Like, that's what it is. Um, which is interesting because again, this is all released. This is the first comic book of Action Comics, right? We mentioned there's other comics in this book. The Golden Age, a few differences obviously there. The book is bigger, it's longer. There's more comics in there. It's not just one. Um, and maybe this is a case where it's like a pilot where they're just trying to get a story out there, and then if it takes off, then we can expand on the characters. We can
Yeah, I
expand
feel like
on them.
that's exactly what this is. Because when you look, I mean, there's 6 other different full length comics in here, right? This is, I mean, this is a decent
Mhm.
sized book, and like we mentioned in the beginning, Zatara is in here, right?
Mhm.
That's fucking Zatanna's father. Like wow, he's all the way back then.
Yeah.
There was several. I mean, there's 5, I think 5 other ones. So you're talking 7 full length comic books, or at the time full length. Right now, um, it's not quite what a
Mhm.
normal comic goes at, but uh, again, feel like it covered a lot more.
Oh
So
yeah.
it's interesting to see because again, and kind of as a wrap up here is that we've always gotten that Clark gets his powers because of our star is younger, right? It's putting out a lot more solar radiation. Now, I know in the comics there's a big thing, and I'm sorry I'm nerding out on it, is that they push it, oh, under a yellow sun. Our sun is not yellow. Our star is white. Okay, it looks yellow because of how the light is attenuated with the particles in the atmosphere. That is why sometimes the sun looks blood red, is because of how it's perceived at different times of the day and the different particles in the atmosphere. That's why it looks like it's changing color. No, the sun is white, right? Our star is white. So Man of Steel does it great when he says Earth's sun's younger. It's like, his body is drunk in the solar radiation. I love that they don't say it's a yellow star, like, because that's always been like, oh, under the yellow sun, but it's always been that the younger star, yellow, was what they always said, was that is what gave Superman his powers. Where in this, it's like, oh no, the entire Kryptonian, which they don't say Kryptonian, but the entire race of people, and they're millions of years advanced from us, right? That's another thing that they dialed back on, where they're like, oh, their race hundreds of thousands of years there. It's like millions of years advanced, where all of their people by the time they reach maturity are like this, right? That's interesting, because that's not something that you think of in I say that nowadays, even the last 30, 40 years in the comics, that's not been the Daily Star versus the Daily Planet. There's all these different things. Again, he grew up and he was in an orphanage versus being raised by the Kents. So it's really interesting to see, and it was interesting to go back and read it again for the first time in a very, very, very long time. Just the differences that now have come to be norm of Superman. That it's like, to reference a previous video, when we did the reaction to the sneak peek, we talked about the fortress. A person had commented, and I swear I'm going to respond to it. I love that you commented. I appreciate it. I will get a response out there here in a little bit, but they commented that, as Superman fans, we forget how advanced the fortress is, right? Because some of the things just, you kind of get almost complacent in the Superman knowledge of, oh, yep, he was raised by the Kents. Kryptonians are this, they're this, and we oh, that's just how it is, right? Well, no, that's not how it was in the originals, right? That's just how the characters changed over time.
Yeah, he's an alien. He's an alien, and the aliens in the beginning of this, like you said, like they're that strong, right? Like no mention of solar radiation, no mention of the sun, like none of that. Like no, that's just how they are. They're just stronger, right? Like it's funny, you think it's like if aliens just came to Earth right now, you think it had anything to do with the solar radiation that they'd be strong? I mean, even the idea of back in the 30s knowing, and maybe they did, I don't know. I'm just talking out of my ass on this one, but like, do they even know the difference between a red star and a normal, like a young star and an old star? Like, I don't know if they knew anything about that in the 30s. Like it's so funny on the first page, like it literally says scientific explanation of how he's able to do that. And it's like you got the ant holding up thing, and it's like all size based shit, right? Like it just they tried to like get the readers to kind of understand where the creators were coming from of how he can do the things he can. And when it's, to me, it's just like, well, no, he's an alien. That's why he can do the shit he can do. Has nothing to do with size based stuff. Like an ant can lift its own body weight, or a grasshopper can
its own body weight, or
jump.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's funny how they tried to kind of explain some of this stuff. And now it's like, well, actually, it's because they're an advanced race of aliens, and because their anatomy is way different with the solar radiation, his cells drink all this, and it's like, no, he's just an alien then, and that's how they are. Like, there's no explanation really.
Well, so
and
there's always been that he has
a
a denser molecular structure, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was been the big thing, and at least especially the live action, like through Lois and Clark, through, even though that's how they've always explained it. It's always been, oh yeah, the denser molecular structure. Okay, well, that doesn't make any sense, right? How do you have laser eyes with a denser molecular structure, right?
I know.
Saying that this is a race of aliens that just, when they reach maturity, have these abilities makes more sense, right?
Kind of does, yeah.
It's easier, right? Again, one line of dialogue. Okay, they had half a panel that just explained it.
Yeah.
Boom, you're done.
Yep.
Don't need to go into the science of it. It's a race, millions-year-old race that just have these abilities. Cool. We're done.
All right, we're good. Yep.
So, guys, I hope you go to your local comic book store and you pick up tomorrow, being the 18th, as we are in the summer of Superman. We'll release that reprint of Action Comics #1. You read it, which I'm saying that by the time you're watching this, you better already freaking have it. And reading it, it is still it's a worthwhile having item. At some point, I've got so many comics to read that I don't have time to read the other back issue ones that are in here of all the old ones. Like, I'm like, dude, I'm getting 5+ new comics a week of everything going on in the All In universe. So don't have time. Mantis is actually worse off than I am because he hasn't even gone and picked up last week's or this week's Wednesday's issues.
It's gonna be bad. My wallet, it's already telling me not to go, but I've got to go. So
It is. But the one thing we won't do, guys, is we're not going to ask you to go over to our Patreon and pay us money and all that stuff because we don't fucking have one, right? What we will ask you to do is if you enjoyed this video, give it a like, right? It's free. We're not asking you. It costs nothing to give the video a like.
Why are you so nice? It costs nothing to be kind.
Shutting the fuck up is also free.
Subscribe to the channel. Click your little bell notification so you will get alerted. We are doing more in the comic. We're trying to do more in the comic books because there's a lot going on, especially with All In Comics right now, with the regular universe, the absolute universe. It's been amazing stories thus far. So we are doing more into the comic book series. We hope you guys love it. And then also all of your DCU news, right? We've been doing a lot with, again, the sneak peeks. We just did a video where we're getting the novel, the prequel novel or junior novel that we'll be releasing. So we will be doing a recap and kind of discussion. We'll go over that so you don't have to read all 144 pages. Just come see us. Have your bell notifications clicked. Be subscribed. You will get alerted when that video releases. Okay, so we'll take all the legwork out for you. You don't have to do that. So, Mantis, do you have anything else to add?
No, I'm good.
All right. In the interest of trying to keep this video a little bit shorter, but it was Action Comics #1, guys. Sorry, we were excited about it. We were going to talk about it a lot and nerd out about it on a little bit. But that is going to wrap it for us on this episode of You, Me, and DC. Until next time, we'll see you then.
Later. It could be issue on this issue.